signs that we should be watching for to really kind of indicate when something big is about to happen. He's going to break down some of these signs as well as give you some suggestions how to protect yourself from this coming economic collapse. All right, joining me now, Jeff Berwick. He is the chief editor of the Dollar Vigilante, world famous financial analyst. I know you've got, you're living there in beautiful Acapulco. We can see that behind you. Jeff, you started Canada's largest financial website, stockhouse.com, in 1994, the Dollar Vigilante in 2010. We brought you on the show today because you recently produced a video. It's gone viral. It's called Shemitah Exposed, Financial Crisis Planned for September 2015. So tell us, what is the Shemitah exactly and why should we be concerned about it?
Of course. First of all, thank you very much, Leanne. It's a real pleasure to be on with you. A big fan of Infowars. As far as the Shemitah goes, I started something called the Dollar Vigilante in 2010, expecting a financial and a collapse of the U.S. dollar within 5 to 10 years. And we're now 5 years in, and I'm starting to see a lot of the first signs of this beginning to happen. But it wasn't until recently that I came across something called the Shemitah after reading a book by Jonathan Cahn called The Harbinger. And it really seemed to show that every 7 years, which is the Shemitah. So the Shemitah is a Judaic religion, something in the Judaic religion, where every 7 years they wash away all debts, and they that's essentially what they say in their religion. And actually, if you look at the exact date of the end of the Shemitah year, every 7 years, it seems like some sort of major market or financial calamity seems to happen. And this is what I started to look into. So I looked back at the last one, which was in 2008, which was September 29th. That was the last major market crisis collapse, and that on that day the market fell 777 points. Then you go back 7 years prior to that was September 17th, 2001. That was the exact end date of the Shemitah in 2001, and the markets that was the first day that the U.S. stock markets opened after 9/11, and the markets fell 7% on that day. You can keep going back every 7 years. 1994 was the bond market massacre. Of course, 1987 was Black Monday. These things seem to have some sort of reason or some sort of a plan to them, or at least the market seemed to adhere to it. So I've been looking at this year coming up. We're actually in a Shemitah year right now, and it actually ends on September 13th of this year. So I'm looking at the September 13th date. And when I started looking into that date, I started to realize there is a lot of things happening all around that date of major significance, including, as you guys know very well, I follow your coverage of Jade Helm very much. That ends on September 15th. So that's a very interesting date. September 15th is also the 70th UN Jubilee session, where world leaders will be around the world, including the Pope in New York on that day. And then the day after that, the Federal Reserve is having a meeting where they may increase interest rates by 0.25%, which alone can totally destroy this entire debt-based financial and economic system.
And it's interesting that it's being called the Jubilee, because isn't this the Jubilee year as well?
Yes, that's right. So every 50 years, so every seven Shemitahs, which is 49, you have to be good at math or at least know football. That's how I do my sevens. So every 49 years, after that year, every 50th year is called the Jubilee. The last one was in 1967, and was when Israel won the I forget how many days it was, 5-day war or 6-day war, I believe it was called. And then before that was when the British Empire took over Israel. And so on the Jubilee year, according to Jewish religion, is something the Jewish people are supposed to get back their land that was taken away from them. So I'm also watching that for next year, because we're also seeing in the UN they're going to be voting on a Palestinian state in this September. So there's a lot going on that is all tied into this Shemitah.
Wow, that's very interesting. Now, do you think that this Shemitah cycle could be exploited by criminal elements within the banking elite?
Well, the banking elite are criminal elements to start with, of course, and the government as well. The governments and central banks are criminal entities. They're anti-freedom, evil, anti-human organizations. And yeah, of course, they've sort of planned these things out. If you look back throughout history, even the Great Depression, the main market drop during the Great Depression was during the Shemitah year in 1931-32, and they planned that out. That's actually been fairly proven now that they actually plan to take away liquidity from the market, get the market to go down massively, and then buy up all the stock. I don't know if that's what they're doing this time because a lot's changed since 1930, but there definitely seems to be something planned for this September or maybe October.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of different signs and people kind of predicting a lot of different things happening here this fall. So what happens if these signs are accurate?
Well, there's really no way to know. There's so many things going on. I've been predicting that we're going to see a major market crisis, collapse, or an end of the monetary system as we know it anyway in the next couple of years. So even if nothing major happens in September, October, I still recommend to people to be very safe, to follow a lot of the advice that we're giving at the Dollar Vigilante, and to start to get out of the financial system and monetary systems, because even if it doesn't happen this fall, it's going to happen in the next few years, almost baked in the cake.
Right. I was kind of researching that myself. It does sort of go in cycles. It's the real estate cycle, and then I guess the bond market or something. What's the next card to fall?
Well, what you're talking about are bubbles that are created by central bank money printing. So the tech bubble was one. After the tech bubble collapsed, Paul Krugman called for a housing bubble, and he got it. That collapsed in 2007. That's now turned into a government debt bubble, which is absolutely massive, which will collapse at some point and take down the entire financial, monetary, and economic system with it. And that will happen in the next few years. So people who are paying attention to what's going on in Greece, if you live in the U.S., that's going to happen in the U.S. It's actually going to be even worse in the U.S. So I advise people to prepare now.
Yeah, we're already starting to see that, I guess, happen in Puerto Rico. But Obama says there's not going to be any Greece-style bailout for Puerto Rico. So what are some things that you suggest for people to start doing now?
Well, I've been recommending all along to get out of the financial system as much as possible. Get your money outside of the U.S. if possible. We have a lot of that sort of information at thedollarvigilante.com. Get into precious metals, hard assets, anything that Janet Yellen can't counterfeit or turn into worthlessness, which she's going to do with the U.S. dollar, is a good idea.
And so what do you think about everything that's going on with China?
Well, I think China is really just a precursor to what we're going to be seeing globally. If you look back at 2007, the last time there was a major Chinese stock market collapse was in 2007. And of course, 2008 is when it all came over in contagion to the U.S. I think the exact same thing's happening right now. It almost looks like a exact repeat of 2007 right now, with oil collapsing, Chinese stock market collapsing, Greece again having problems. They always have problems, though, so that's normal. And commodities going down. Even right now, we're seeing, I think, the pre-shocks, the pre-tremors of a major market crisis coming in the fall. We're seeing the Dow that was down 7 days in a row. It's down big again today. I think these are just the pre-shocks towards a major crisis. And so do you think that those are the little small signs, or is there one big thing that it's going to signal to you like this is it? No, there's no one big thing. There's thousands of black swans in the sky, as far as I can tell, and there's so many black swans in the sky that it's almost becoming an eclipse, in my opinion. Anything can set it off. The Arab Spring was set off by just one person in a market in Tunisia lighting himself on fire because he couldn't afford to live anymore. That set off the entire Arab Spring. So you have no way to know what's going to set it off, but something's going to happen. If not this fall, soon enough that I'd rather be a year early than a day too late in this sort of event.
Yeah, absolutely. I've already kind of started arranging some of those things myself. Well, Jeff Berwick, the chief editor of Dollar Vigilante, so people can find more information there and find some ways that they can actually move their money around and get out of the dollar market here, right?
Yes, absolutely. Just go to dollarvigilante.com, put your email in, and we'll send you information every day. Or if you want to check out our viral video on surviving Shemitah, just go to surviveshemitah.com.
Thank you so much for joining us.
You have all the major central banks, Japan, UK, Europe, America, all printing staggering amounts of money. The people who are getting that money, Jeff, are very happy, and their friends are very happy.
I believe in 2020 that we will be back into a rip-roaring, snorting bull market.
And no one's got the guts to stand up and say, you know, the truth. And the truth is it doesn't work. Printing money isn't working.
Government is always mankind's biggest enemy throughout human history. It always has been. It's what destroyed Rome. It's what every empire has collapsed, and every war and all the billions of people have been killed. It's all due to government. So it is always our enemy.